Welcome everyone to the first episode on my RX-7 build. And the first thing we're doing with a car that's been sitting for so long, 7 years, is to get all the old fuel out of the system. And the first step is to remove the fuel tank. So thankfully on this RX-7, unlike the MR2, the fuel pump and the fuel tank is readily accessible. So if you look down here, obviously I've removed all the carpeting and everything, all the trim. It took me about 45 minutes, very easy, all you need is a screwdriver. So you remove all the trim in the back of the RX-7, and then there's two access panels. So there's one here, this is for the fuel pump. So if you can remove that with 4 screws, and then you have access directly to the fuel pump. And then this access panel right here, also 4 screws. This is access to the fuel filler. So when you drop the fuel tank, you're going to have to disconnect the fuel filler, obviously. So the first step is to get everything, open and exposed, and then disconnect everything. So we're going to disconnect the fuel lines on this side, and we're going to disconnect the fuel filler on this side. It's going to be kind of a fun job because everything has been rusted and dirty for 27 years or whatever. And then after all this is done, we're going to go underneath the car, look at the straps. There's 2 straps that hold the fuel tank to the car. Remove those and drop the fuel tank. And also, before we do that, we're going to drain the fuel tank. We want to make sure there's no fuel left in the fuel tank because it's going to make it very heavy and we have to dispose of that fuel. So let's go ahead and get that done and show you what it looks like.
Okay.
All right, so we are draining the fuel. You can see we removed the filler or the drain plug, and all the old fuel is coming out. There's going to be quite a bit, so just let it drain. And then we can disconnect all the connectors at the front or the top, and then drop the fuel tank. So the fuel tank's right here. If you can see, there's 2 straps, one on each side here. That's what holds the fuel tank in place. So we're going to need to undo those straps and then drop this fuel tank.
So here we have all the fuel drained, and you can see just how much fuel comes out of the tank. I think it's about 30 to 35 liters, depending on how much fuel's in there. And remember to dispose of it properly.
Alright, so we've drained the fuel tank, and now we've disconnected all the lines. So you can see we have 2 lines here, a feed and return, so we've disconnected those. This is the connection for the fuel pump, we've disconnected that. And then on this end we have 2 pipes, we have the breather hose and the filler hose, so we've just removed those. So now everything's ready for us to drop the fuel tank. We have to get at those straps. There's 2 bolts that hold each one of those straps in. And then we can drop everything using a jack.
So this is just a look at what you have to do to get those bolts out. I'm using an air compressor impact gun, but if you have an electric impact gun, it also works. You need to hit them quite hard. The bolts will be rusted in place. And make sure you have a proper extension and the proper size sockets. But they will come out after hitting.
Okay.
Alright, so we've got first off over there's a little shield that protects the fuel tank. You got to remove that. Got to hit it with some impact bolt or impact gun. And then the 2 straps here. So to remove 2 bolts again with an impact gun. And you can see the straps are loose now. And we're just supporting the weight of the fuel tank with this jack. And we're going to lower it slowly to the ground so we can get it out. Do that now.
So my microphone died on me here, but this is just the final conclusion to this job. The fuel tank has now been removed. It takes a little bit of finagling to get the fuel tank out. It's best to have somebody push from above while the other person lowers the jack. Here we have the fuel pump as well as the filler and the breather tube. And you can just see how dirty this fuel tank is. It really needs to be cleaned up. And as I said before, there's 2 steel straps that hold it in place. And so we're going to be using these to reinstall the tank after we clean it, or we can remove them if we are going to go with a brand new fuel cell. I haven't decided that yet. So I hope you enjoyed this video. The whole job took about an hour and a half, and stay tuned for more videos.